Hi, this is Zahour from SM JUROR, and today we're going to be looking at the juror misconduct issues in the case of People versus Stone, which is out of the New York Court of Appeals. Some points that I want to highlight that we're going to discuss are the timing of the alleged juror misconduct incident, and also the use of affidavits and counter-affidavits. In this case, the defendant was convicted of assault. He moved to set aside the verdict based on juror misconduct, which was supported by the affidavit of his fiancée. He stated that after the verdict, his fiancée observed an interaction on the street between the victim and a juror, which suggested that they knew each other. The motion was denied without a hearing. Now, in this case, we're going to jump directly to the holding. It's a little bit different than how we do our other presentations, but I think that it will be more effective. The Court of Appeals found that a defendant's motion to set aside the verdict was without merit, and they referred to their prior opinion in People versus Stone. The affidavit without any other supporting evidence was insufficient to constitute a basis for setting aside the verdict. The fiancé's affidavit described an interaction between the victim and a juror, which suggested a prior relationship. The people obtained the affidavit from the victim, which denied any relationship and explained that the victim was thanking the jurors for reaching what the victim thought was a just verdict. The trial court did not abuse its discretion in denying the motion without a hearing. Now let's take a look at some specific facts which are pivotal to the outcome of the case. First, the alleged interaction between the juror and the victim occurred after the verdict. And this is important because timing is always important. If there is interaction between a juror and one of the parties after the verdict has been rendered, there's nothing wrong with that. That's not prohibited. Second, the affidavit from the fiancé merely suggested the possibility of a prior relationship between the victim and a juror. There was no corroborating evidence. And I bring this up to remind you that emotion is no substitute for an investigation. Here, the people's counter-affidavit of the victim denied any relationship and explained the post-verdict interaction as the victim thanking the jurors for a just verdict. If we take a look at the counter-affidavit, we know that it went directly to the source of the alleged juror misconduct. So the affidavit from the fiancé said that the victim must have been doing something inappropriate because there was a relationship with the victim and the juror, but the people went straight to the victim to elaborate and explain what was happening in that interaction, essentially to show that there was nothing inappropriately done and no prior relationship. And finally, I just want to point out that the defendant did not challenge the affidavit of the victim or move to strike it. Now, I'm not suggesting that those were viable options in this case, but I want to bring it up because of the fact that they could be viable options in your particular case. Now here, the trial court compared the two affidavits. One was speculative, that was the one from the fiancé, and the other contained relevant evidence, that was the one from the victim, which explained what occurred in that incident after the rendering of the verdict between the victim and the juror. So the trial court chose to believe that affidavit and denied the motion without a hearing. What's also important is that the original affidavit from the fiancé merely suggested a prior relationship, and that's not enough to even suggest that there should be a hearing. So I wanted to point that out as well. And that's it for our case law analysis of the juror misconduct issues in this case. Again, this is Nilgün Zahour from SM JUROR. Thanks for watching, because the only evidence you want the jury to consider is in the courtroom. See you next time.